If you're an entrepreneur, you know what it means to take personal and financial risks, create jobs that support your community, and devote most of your time to your business. But do you know how to plan for a successful exit from your business? Do you know who should be involved in creating your succession or transition plan and the steps along the way? Welcome to Finish Big, the podcast with Mark Dorman from Legacy Business Advisors. The podcast theme is inspired by critically acclaimed business author Bo Burlingham, author of Finish Big, How Great Entrepreneurs Exit Their Companies on Top. In this podcast, you'll hear success stories of exit plans done right and pick up practical tips based on years of Legacy Business Advisors' expertise and knowledge about the largest and most important financial transaction of your life. Now, on to the show.
Hello. This is Mark Dorman, your host of the Finish Big podcast, and today I am exceptionally pleased to have a gentleman who's become a friend. He's been a client for quite a long time, but most importantly, a friend, and someone I look up to, Mr. Nate Sublett. Nate is the president/owner of Benchmark Craftsmen. Let me tell you a little bit about Benchmark. Benchmark is located in Seville, Ohio, which is about 20 miles west of Akron, about 35, 40 miles south of Cleveland. And they're in a very unique niche business. They're custom design and fabricators for trade show exhibits and environments, also for events. So we're going to touch on that. What I want to say about Nate is he really sells himself short. He calls himself, hey, I'm just a carpenter. But as we'll see here throughout the show, he's got a lot to offer. So Nate, my good friend, welcome to Finish Big, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks, Mark. It's exciting to be here with you.
Great. Thank you. So I want to we'll dive right in here. So tell me a little bit about your business. I first knew of you through a business called Cyclonics, which, if I understand correctly, was started by your father. But walk us through how long, although you are a carpenter by trade, you've become quite a successful business person. You are, by definition, a baby boomers for those of us who are listening, and you're looking kind of at a transition perhaps down the road. But let's start at the beginning. Talk to us about Cyclonics, what your role was there, how your dad got started, et cetera.
Sure. Cyclonics was in the same business we are. They were designers of exhibits and environments. They worked heavily in the trade show arena, and also they did some museum work and that kind of thing. A little bit on the environment side, not as much as we do now. As far as designing and building retail and experiences for stores, any kind of retail store, restaurants. Car dealerships have become a big thing for us, doing the interiors of car dealerships and that kind of thing. But Cyclonics was started in 1968 by my father. He was in business with a lifelong friend of his.
Yeah. And what was your dad's name, Nate?
My father was Herman Sublett.
Herman, okay. And was he a carpenter as well?
He was a carpenter. He was one heck of a cabinet maker. Built some beautiful furniture, which my wife and I are still enjoying.
That's awesome.
That kind of thing. He was a graduate. He was in the Army Air Force during World War II, and then went to Berea College in Kentucky on the GI Bill. Berea is a well-known school for Appalachian people. He was from Kentucky, and at that school, they had the ability for their students to earn their tuition and expenses by working in college-sponsored industries. And one of them was a woodworking factory where they built furniture and things like that. And my father ended up being involved there. And then his partner went to another school up the street in Lexington, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And then he moved to Cleveland. He got a job with a gentleman who was a refugee from the Batista regime in Cuba. He came in the 40s. He was doing theater and set design stuff. And they were looking for a carpenter and trying to find somebody that would fit their team. They interviewed my father, and my father came north to Cleveland in 1954. And I was born in 1955, and he went to work for Mr. Gallo and his team there. They ended up being Gallo Displays, doing trade show exhibits. And then he and Reed left. Yeah, he and Reed left Gallo and started a company called Cyclonics.
Now that had to be a leap of faith there back in the late 60s. So that was 68, and my notes tell me that you started with them in right around 77, 78. Is that right?
Yes, that was after I graduated from college, and I went to school in Kentucky as well. down at another school that's well known for woodworking and wood training. I'm a wood technology major 50 some years ago. That world has changed completely.
Wow. Yeah.
But it was I followed in my father's footsteps in that regard. And they offered me a job, and I was teaching school for a little bit in a county school down in Kentucky, and came home for Christmas, and they offered me a job, and the pay was almost double it. $8,000. So I decided to take it.
$8,000. Wow. And what was it like working with your dad? Did you enjoy that?
I did. It was a great experience. He and I didn't always see eye to eye on things, but we literally shared a partner's desk. He worked on one side of the desk. I worked on the other side of the desk. Both of us spent a lot of time on the shop floor with our craftsmen and our crew, overseeing the quality of our product and everything that we were building, and making sure that our customers were well satisfied with our quality and timing. I learned a lot from him about how to deal with people, how to deal with craftsmen. I learned a great deal about what is quality and what isn't quality. It's very important for anybody that's producing any kind of product, especially when your reputation's staked on it, and ours was at Cyclonics as well. We were fortunate enough to gain clients through word of mouth. We never advertised. Client would recommend us to somebody else that they knew, and before you know it, we'd have them as a customer, and we gained clients that way. In fact, one of the interesting stories is their first customer was one of their first customers was Black & Decker tools, and they were doing their trade show exhibits. To this day,
that's still a customer of Benchmarks today, right?
Yes,
we'll touch on that. Yeah, so
Black & Decker and Stanley Tools joined each other, and they're still a customer of ours. So they've been with my family, working and doing the same thing for them for since 1968. So wow. 50 years, pretty close to 50 years.
Hats off to you. And then you had a partner, and you then in turn bought your dad and Reed Heskamp, the owners of Cyclonics, out. How did that conversation come about? I mean, Finish Big's all about transition, planning, succession, business continuity. Was that a smooth passing of the baton? Would you have done anything differently there?
It was an easy passing of the baton. And I think because all of the parties wanted it to happen. It was something that my partner and I, a gentleman named Marty McGreevy, had been with us for a little while. We wanted it to happen, and my father and his partner wanted it to happen. They were looking to slow down, and work was getting in the way of things they'd rather be doing at the time. So we just structured a very, very simple stock purchase deal. They were not greedy at all. We took advantage of a compensation deferment clause.
Deferred compensation that they had set up?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And we took advantage of that, which was helpful to us and to them. And then we remained in the building that they had. So we signed a relatively short-term lease to stay in the building. So they got their income, for what they wanted out of the company through that. So it worked out real well. It was a friendly transition. It worked really smoothly. Both my father and his partner stayed involved with us for a little while to help us transition and to help the people that were working there, transition, get used to us. To be honest with you, I've been there for a long time already. That was almost 20 years after I joined the company. So everybody knew me pretty well. And Marty was relatively new to him.
I'm sure they didn't know you. I mean, your dad's kind of running the show. He's the man with Reed, and now all of a sudden there's always that kind of, hey, I'm in charge now. I mean, was that a tough road to hoe, or you'd kind of earn your street cred, so to speak, huh?
Well, I had earned my stripes. There's no doubt about it. And we were smart enough. The transition took 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I moved into different roles of responsibility with the company prior to taking over completely. And that worked out real well for us in a situation responsibly where I had P&L responsibilities at that time for them. They were smart. We really, they trained me well. Let's put it that way before they turned me loose, let's say.
Right. So it was you and a partner buying out your dad and his partner. How big was Cyclonics when you purchased it? How big did it get? And obviously you run Benchmark, so Cyclonics came to an end. Walk us through that kind of continuum, if you will.
Yeah, Cyclonics grew pretty well. I mean, it was on a good growth path when we took over, or when we stepped into the ownership. I shouldn't say took over, but we stepped into the ownership. And it was on a nice path, a growth path. Marty was an excellent salesman, and he brought a lot of experience to the table in selling. And we turned out to be a pretty good team. We took the company from, at the time when we purchased it, in 1994, it was a $4 million a year company. It was at about 25 employees. And by the time we sold it, we had grown it out to a $14 million a year company with about 45 employees. We were very solid, very profitable the whole way. We really didn't have any trials and tribulations in that regard. Cash flow is always interesting in our business, but you learn to manage that after a while. But we grew pretty well, and then we kind of got on the radar screen of some of these venture capital groups that were looking for businesses where there were small companies like ours, which our industry is full of, family-owned small businesses. There's a few big ones, but most of them are pretty middle-sized, from anywhere from $4 million to $20 million. And some of these VC companies were looking to buy up companies like ours and roll us up, to form larger organizations. So we got on the radar screen of a group out of Fort Worth, Texas, that had a lot of cash, and we met all their criteria for the purchase and that kind of thing. They came to us, and Marty and I both looked at it and said, we can't afford not to do this for our families.
And how old were you then when you sold the business?
I was 45 years old at that time.
Wow. Did you ever think, like, heck, what am I going to do now? Or this was just too good to pass up?
I was going to go be a fishing guide.
Well, I don't know. There's some summers you're still a fishing guy. I know you like to fish now.
Yeah, that didn't work out. To be honest with you, when I left the company, they kept me on for a year just to help transition. And I left the company. I was kind of looking for something to do. I had a little bit of money. I had some things I wanted to do and accomplish. So I spent about a year and a half, 2 years, trying my hand at a few other things. I got a little bit into construction. I joined a small construction company here in Medina as part of their business managers. They welcomed me, and I was fortunate to go to work for them. And so I got a little experience in commercial construction. They were doing strip center, shopping centers. They were doing a little bit of light industrial construction and that kind of thing. So that kind of gave me the introduction to the part of the business that we now lean on quite a bit, and that was the custom designed interiors and custom build out interiors and stuff for retail, restaurants, and that kind of thing. We did restaurants, we did stores, we did all kinds of stuff in that construction company. So it kind of opened my eyes to possibilities there.
Yeah, excellent. So then, but you left the construction company. What year did you start Benchmark, and what was the kind of the genesis of that idea? Yeah,
we sold and closed on the sale of Cyclonics in September of '99, and I had a 3-year non-compete, and I went and opened up, started to get ready to open up Benchmark in 2002. I found that construction game wasn't completely my bailiwick. I enjoyed it, but I still missed what I was doing at Cyclonics and designing and building environments. And I'm just crazy enough that I enjoyed the pressure of the trade show side, where we were all working to tight deadlines and having customers with totally unreasonable demands. There's no such thing, of course, as a customer like that, but I felt they were at the time. But I actually enjoyed it. It was something that gave me something to get up for and look forward to every morning. When I hit the floor, I was going in to see what was going to happen next. So I started Benchmark, and also even when I started it in 2002, I thought, well, my father had given me this opportunity, and it worked out really well for me. And I would like to build an opportunity that if my kids wanted to join it when they were ready to, that they could. So I was looking to to build a legacy on what the foundation my father gave us. So we started Benchmark.
Yeah, and today Benchmark is truly, ladies and gentlemen, a true family business. I mean, your wife Sue works in the business, your lovely wife Sue, your daughter Joanna, your son Adam, your son Matt. I mean, these are some pretty dynamic people, and I imagine, hey, I've got 4 kids. I tell you that all the time over lunch. I mean, there's some friction there sometimes. So what have you found at Benchmark? When did your kids join you? Did they all join at once? Was it, hey, come in, or was it what kind of one by one? Walk us through that timeline.
Yeah, they joined kind of one by one. We started Benchmark in 2002. We grew very quickly. My first client through the door was the Stanley Black & Decker Group. So they once they found out that I'd started a new business, they shipped everything in. And then several other of the clients that I had at Cyclonics came on board very quickly as well. So our company grew very quickly for the first year. We went from 4 people to 15 people.
Right. And obviously your non-compete was over, but at what point did you say to your kids, hey, I got this crazy idea, why don't we all work together?
Well, I don't know that I ever really said that. It just kind of happened. My eldest son graduated from Embry-Riddle down in Daytona Beach. He was on a track in an aviation career, and he decided he didn't like the idea of living the rest of his life in a small little office with one other guy, which is what, being an airline pilot.
And that was Matt or Adam?
That was Matthew.
Okay, all right.
And so he came on board pretty quickly. And then Adam joined about a year later after he graduated from Ashland with a business degree. And then Joanna joined us about 2 years later. I think everybody was on board by 2007. Mm-hmm. Joanna graduated from Miami down in Oxford, Ohio with a financial degree. All the kids were well prepared to join the business. There's no doubt about it. They brought a lot to the table for us.
But what they didn't have is the carpentry experience, the master woodworking experience, the construction background that you picked up. So, but you have been able to assemble a terrific team of tradesmen and tradeswomen, I should say, tradespeople throughout the year. So how big is Benchmark today? And what are the respective roles and the hats that Sue wears, your wife Sue, or the kids and yourself? So what's that org chart look like?
Okay, the org chart's pretty simple. I brought on some key players from my Cyclonics days. My controller at Cyclonics joined me. She's a licensed CPA, and she retains her license. She had been with me at Cyclonics for 5 years before we started Benchmark, and she knew the business really well. So Denise Troughton's her name. She came on board with me. One of my main designers at Cyclonics came on board with me as well at that time, Bob Manthe. So we had familiar people when we started the company. The tradesmen that came on board were probably the top guys in my shop from before. It pays to be fair, and it pays to be a good boss. And I guess I was. I didn't realize it while I was doing it, but I've been told that was the main reason they came on board. They were looking to continue on the path that we had been on together before. So we had them, a bunch of them came on. And then over the years, we've added other very, very talented people as we've come across. Our designers are very well-known designers. Our craftsmen are great craftsmen. Yeah. They all learned, through experience and training, both. But they're carpenters, they're metal workers, they're electricians, they're plastics fabricators. We have a pretty large crew. Benchmark grew from 4 in 2002 to right now with everybody included, including some of our people that are part-time. We're about 65 people right now.
Wow. What a success story. And our guest today is Nate Sublett. Nate's the president and owner of Benchmark Craftsmen. So let's continue, Nate. So you're working with your 3 kids, Matt, Adam, and Joanna, your wife, but your business has taken on, I mean, I just know this from, watching you and becoming a great observer of your terrific family and your business, but you've kind of separated your business. You still do trade show exhibits, but then you do also a lot of repeat business with car dealers, et cetera. If someone wants to basically redo the showroom of every Mazda dealership throughout the Midwest, you become their guy and you're building the same piece over and over again, or pieces, parts, correct?
Mark, we kind of divided the company into three different I like to call them platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Our company, in all cases, we're design, fabricating, and installing or managing the program for our clients. And the trade show side, we design and build the trade show exhibits. We move them to the venues. We set them up. We tear them down. We put them into storage, or we move them to the next show. We have crews that work in every city in the country. We actually work on an international basis for some of our clients as well. We've made very strategic partnerships with our vendors, our labor vendors, and that kind of thing in cities all over the country. So that leads us to the second platform that we have, and that's where we're doing the interiors and designing interiors and things for restaurants, car dealerships, and that kind of thing. We've done a little bit of work for some of the chain restaurants. We worked quite a bit for Phillips Seafood out on the East Coast and down through the South, doing all the designing and building and installing all their restaurants. They're very big in airports around the East Coast and down through the South. We worked doing those restaurants. We would design it, fabricate all the components, ship it into the location, and then install it in the location, and then do a quick training for the people that were going to be using the stuff that we had installed, and then we go on and do the next one. So, and that happened a lot because we were very comfortable in working all over the country in the trade show venues, and we had labor in all those locations. It wasn't like we had to ship our own guys down to do the labor. We shipped our own guys down to be supervisors of labor and installation, guys that knew the job very well, had all the drawings, had everything in their head, and knew exactly what was going to be done. It's preparation, and quality. We make sure that everything fits perfectly, everything works out before it even arrives. So that's part of it. And then the third venue is something that my son Matthew really got us into. We work in the motorsports world in events, particularly for BMW motorcycles. We have trucks roaming the country full of motorcycles going to dealerships, and our people set up the bikes for rides, for demo rides and that kind of thing. And then also, we have a staff of. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
So if the local BMW motorcycle shop is having a meet and greet, come meet the pro, that's all your stuff that you're building. You're kind of running that event for them, event planning, right?
Yeah, we're running the event. We're running the trucks that haul it. We've got semi trucks full of motorcycles and event, materials and components all over the country. And then also what we have is some of our employees, and these are some of our part-time guys. They are product specialists that are on our payroll that know the products in and out, and they take people on the demo rides. They talk to them about the bikes. They help sell the bikes, for the dealerships, and they become product experts, work very closely with dealerships. We also do other national events like Bike Week. Sturgis is coming up in a week or so here. We do that. We do some of that same work for Harley Davidson. Their program's not as big as BMW.
So are we apt to see you in a black leather outfit during Bike Week, Nate?
I don't look good in black, man.
So one of the things I want to explore, and again, we're talking with Nate Sublett, president and owner of Benchmark Craftsmen today, and you're listening to the Finish Big podcast with your host, Mark Dorman. But the trade show business basically evaporated in a matter of 3 weeks during the beginning of COVID. It just dried up. There's a lot of trade show businesses and people in your field that evaporated and went the way of the dinosaur. But you and your family did something very, very different. And this is where I just think that you're way, way more than just a carpenter. You're just such a resilient and adaptive business person. You got into the boat business, right? So talk to us about that, and how long, before we do that, let's pause about how deep was the trough of the trade show business when it evaporated, and how long did it take to bounce back post-COVID?
Boy, that's I tell you what, I've never lived, like all our country, we've never lived through anything like that. It came to a screeching halt on March the 8th, 2020. We were setting up some of the larger shows in Las Vegas and Orlando and that kind of thing. In fact, they canceled the shows and made our crews who were working on installations leave the show floor immediately. They emptied the convention centers of the thousands of people that were working in there. And many of those shows stood partially erected for 30 to 60 days. And it took us about 60 to 90 days to recover all the materials that our clients had out on the road. We were unloading trucks here on a daily basis. In fact, our warehouse has never been so full as it was at that point, because most of the time we had a lot of things out on the road. So it was that everything was never completely inside, our facilities. So we really had a time, but other than
I just don't know that there was another industry that it was negative as negatively affected as trade shows in general, and everything that, and all the people that support trade shows, including Benchmark. But as I said, there was never an industry, in my opinion, that was as negatively affected as the trade show business and everyone who supports trade shows. How deep was the trough, and how long did it take for you to get that platform, and to use your term, back up and running, where you were back in business? And then you again, the resiliency of you and your family and your business to come up with these virtual trade shows where people could still exhibit things, but more in an online environment. Walk us through that.
Yeah, we were struggling for about 60 days, Mark.
Wow, that's all.
It really didn't take us long. My team is, I have to say, I'm surrounded by a lot of people that are a whole lot smarter than I am. And they really grabbed the bull by the horns and said, let's do this, let's do this. It was kind of a brainstorming session on Teams, where we all got to work. I brought back some of our shop crew, and we virtually set up a sound stage in our warehouse. We moved a bunch of stuff out to leased warehousing space, and we set up a large sound stage in our warehouse where we would actually assemble our clients' exhibits and merchandise them and put them out just as if they were on the show floor. And then we worked, doing the virtual exhibits and programming and that kind of thing. So we came back. We were within 90 days, we had sold several of the virtual platforms to some of our existing customers.
Wow.
And then within 120 days, we were rolling right along, selling it at a pretty good clip, and to other customers and other people, and even some show management operations for some of the smaller shows in the country. Allowed us to help and work for them in developing the, getting a virtual trade show, trade shows set up and running.
You also got into the boat business, right? So before we wrap up here, tell us that story, because this is phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong boater. I've always enjoyed it. I've spent a lot of my time, or most of my free time, is spent on the water, especially here in the Great Lakes region. I also have enjoyed a pretty nice amount of time on the saltwater in the Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean, and areas like that, mainly the Gulf side of Florida, and always have been involved and enthralled with boats. So when I had a bunch of carpenters that had nothing to do, and I knew they were very talented guys, I said, let's build some boats. So we did. And we started with it, and it's really rolling along well for us. We're building
but it's not just any boats. What kind of boats is it?
Well, we are finishing off. We managed to coordinate and work out with a group called Lyman Boat Works, or Lyman Boats. They were an old line boat here that was built in the Great Lakes region from the late 1800s until the early 1980s. One gentleman ended up buying the Lyman name and all the factory tooling and machinery and that kind of thing. And when we decided to build boats, we decided we'd reach out to him and see if he was interested in having somebody, revive the line of boats. We didn't really revive the line as it was. We took the Lyman look, which was, and some of the Lyman characteristics, and we did what was done with the Mini Cooper and the now Minis. We updated it. We made it a little bit more modern. We gave it, a little bit more of a 21st century spin. And we're building very high-end wood boats.
The Lyman boats are the really kind of the super posh wood. What are they made out of? Mahogany or?
Yeah, they're mahogany, mahogany boats. Some of them with paint finish, some of them with natural finish.
Yeah.
The Lyman was well known for being the best boat to have on the Great Lakes. It handled our weather and our chop and our water conditions really well. And I have to say, the new boats are doing very well at that as well. They're becoming, they handle superbly on choppy water, and then they handle perfect on any water. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's great.
It's been kind of what I've focused on, because I want to.
Yeah, that's great. Our guest today has been Nate Sublett, the president and owner of Benchmark Craftsmen. They do a lot of things, including exhibits, environments, fabricating wood. He's more than just a carpenter, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, they build boats too. So, Nate, I can't thank you enough. I've really enjoyed working with you and getting to know you and your family, and appreciate you being on the Finish Big podcast this afternoon. Thanks for sharing your story.
Mark, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me to join you. It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Mark Dorman, your host of the Finish Big podcast. Here's to finishing big. Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed listening to Finish Big, the podcast with Mark Dorman from Legacy Business Advisors. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes are available. Learn more at legacybusinessadvisors.com or call 330-350-5410. Please be aware the information in these podcasts represent the views and opinions of our guests and do not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Legacy Business Advisors. The content is for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional tax or legal advice. Always seek the advice of your legal or tax professional with any questions regarding your specific situation.